Oh, congratulations on Sing Sing. What an amazing film, a brilliant story as well. But just your music is such a fantastic companion to the experience of this.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you,
yeah,
Edith.
I chatted to Greg actually just maybe a couple of weeks ago about it, and just talking through his journey with it, and how how long it's been sitting with him, and how long he's been trying to make it and things like that. It's I think people don't appreciate sometimes how long these projects can actually take to come to fruition.
Yeah, I think this is the third project that I've done with Greg and also with his writing directing partner Clint Bentley, who they
Mm.
kind of co-write a lot of the films. So this is their two previous films I also worked on, and um, they're just really, genuine, hardworking, really humble, creative, amazing guys. And then this story, having the other two films, one's called Jockey, and the other was like a kind of border narrative film called Transpecos,
Yeah.
and I'm very proud of both of those also. This one, like when I first, it was like in the middle of a really busy. We were about to go on tour with the band, and it was sort of like exactly when I shouldn't have been doing a scoring project. But they sent it to me, and because I love them so much, and I saw like the first 20 minutes, and I was just totally, right away, it just sort of leapt off the screen as something really
Mm.
powerful, and the whole way, the story, and then the fact that it's really, I don't think any of us think of it as our film. It's like, or it's collectively our film. It's so much the story of these individuals who went through the program, and, several of whom are in the film. And so it just was such a powerful thing to work on.
What I love about it is that one of the things that I loved Greg talked about was the fact that before he'd set foot in a working prison, he had a very much preconceived idea about what it was going to be like, what the people were going to be like, what their relationships were going to be like, and and with this film in particular, he really wanted to kind of swipe that clean for a lot of people, and I feel like he's he's done that so well, and I think a lot of that as well is down to the choices that you guys have made with the music, with the instrumentation, and in particular, and that I think that people will have almost kind of, it's almost like a contradiction to the preconceived idea of prison. What the music is, it has just such a beautiful, it has a depth but a delicacy to it, and just such a warm, kind of lovely, sort of welcoming kind of um, tone to it. I think, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about, when you first started thinking about the project, and kind of the conversations that you were having about where you would start and what it was that you wanted to try and create.
Yeah, I think this, every time I've worked with Greg and Clint, there's it's just a fully creative environment where there's no kind of limitations or really, some of the things that very typical things in film music, especially around
Mm.
expectations of producers or sort of, I think it's always a creative kind of feeling of really, it's mostly basically I'm scoring the film and making all the choices, and they pretty much, they'll push me a little farther with something, but I don't get the like, oh no, start over, or not feeling it or whatever it is. And I think in this case, the it was so powerful what was coming off the screen, and there's so much, obviously, like a prison drama is in a way an archetype, like a great cinematic. There's many examples of famous films set in prisons, and it's in it kind of like Greek tragedy or something. It's like this human idea that is very real and very relatable on some level. And I think this film itself felt like it could have many different scores, actually, to be honest. Like it, but the thing, it was kind of calling for this music that was like, I think Greg described it as kind of like a poem underneath the film or something, or
Yeah.
like the ocean on which the film was sitting, because, and I think so there's these images of like, Divine I or Divine G, the two main characters, kind of like looking
Yeah.
out of the cell, and that's, which I think is a beautiful metaphor for the experience of everyone in the film, as they're trying to like look out, to look towards their perfect place, to look whether that's looking backwards towards childhood or to the future of a time when they might find themselves on the outside of this
Yeah.
nightmare, or just purely finding their inner, peace in some way of how do you find, which I think, I mean, the struggle to do that in prison is tremendous. Obviously, so many people struggle with that just on a daily basis in their daily lives. They're in the prison of their own mind, and so the music in a way was calling me, I think, towards some sort of horizon. Like there's this feeling, and not scoring, any of the tension or violence or kind of like drawing out society. It's like, it's really this sort of like inner dialogue, and there's elements of solo instruments that speak, like the solo saxophone. The cello is sort of very featured in a gentle way, but there's definitely moments that kind of resemble something like a little, cello with orchestra, or solo clarinets or solo horn. The big point I would make is that this is, probably the film. They make these films, the model that they've, it may have existed in other forms before, but it's, based on what I know in film world, it's quite special. The equitable model around which they make these films, where everyone is a shareholder.
Yeah.
Several of the participants from the program are actually co-writers with them. And basically, it was like, small budget is not the word. This film was made very like, the absolute most economic model. Hiring two musicians would have been expensive. Hiring an orchestra, impossible really. But we basically, through this the way they're doing it, we figured out that we could. And so musically, it was asking for really like orchestral colors, is what I was just writing as, dreaming. I was never thinking, I don't ever use samples when I score orchestrally. It's always, recorded. And we kept going there. And I said, can we figure this out? And they did. So we recorded LCO, who are old friends of mine, London Contemporary Orchestra, and Rob Ames conducted. And I know most of those musicians, and it was done at Air. And it was a dream, to be able to do that for this film. It felt really special.
I was lucky enough week before, I was hosting the proms at
I
Wildlife Hall,
heard,
and
yeah.
got to hear a suite live with Rob and with the LCO, and I mean, every hair on my body was kind of standing to attention and kind of almost like swaying. It was so special.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so nice.
Yeah.
And when I saw that you were doing that, it's so wonderful.
I think I cried about 20 times throughout the night. Even when I first got there in the afternoon and walked out from backstage into that space, whilst, music stands were being erected for the wonderful musicians, and bikes were being placed in the percussion area, and all these amazing things, and just kind of was overwhelmed by the kind of possibilities and the prospect of that room being filled with sound, and that lovely thing that music does, where you react uncontrollably to it. And it was a special night.
Yeah, it's such a rare, also so rare for a film score to be performed in that way. So we're talking about maybe doing a couple performances of like a live scoring of the full film later, which would be wonderful.
Oh, that would be so great. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'll be janitor, whatever you need. I'll be there to help out for sure.
It'd be more than that if we can figure it out. Yeah.
What about you talk about kind of reacting to the what you see on screen and stuff as well, and I remember speaking to Nicholas Britell actually about this, and he was about his score for If Beale Street Could Talk, and he said that if it had been, for example, if Regina's character had been played by someone else, his score for that would have been different. And I wondered how much Coleman, his performance and the presence particularly of him throughout this film, inspired and kind of was a key part in the creation of the music of the film.
I mean, I think that Coleman Domingo is one of the great actors working. So certainly the whole thing set a really high bar. It felt like, and I think the presence of both, on the one hand, it's not a film where, it's like he was in a way the only character not playing himself, or one of a couple. So, and even the way it was made, they were so like close, kind of, and holding this thing as a group,
Yeah.
where he's obviously such a virtuoso, but, Clarence Macklin, who plays, his kind of side, like foil in a way, is as, incredible. And so
Yeah.
it felt kind of Shakespearean or something, this, the power of, and like I said, I felt very humble before that. Like a lot of it didn't need music, or if it did, it was really a gentle touch. And I've been lucky to work on some films with really great directors and great actors, like working on The
Yeah.
Two Popes with Anthony Hopkins, or The Revenant with DiCaprio and Inarritu. And like these, and you're kind of pinching yourself where you're like in your little room here watching on a private screen someone just do incredible work. And so that was
Yeah.
certainly the case. In this instance, though, because I was sort of one of the people in the room who had the most experience with these directors, and I felt I was also, I think, one of the first people really giving them feedback about the film from the outside.
Brilliant.
It felt like a really, privileged kind of.
Yeah.
I was trying to do honor, to their work, and
Yeah.
and it was just one of those things of like the relationship brought me in, and then I was just so glad to be part of it.
And the fact that you did it whilst you were about to go on tour as well. It's just like that idea. It's like, how can you? I've kind of been able to kind of compartmentalize almost like that, of kind of go. I've got this that I'm going to, but right now I've got to get this done, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think any film would have worked. I did a couple other films last year, which like fell at the right time in terms of my schedule being open and like, the demands. I think in this case, because the music I wrote for the film more closely resembles the music I would write just if I was sitting down to write music. Not, it's music I'm proud of, that, probably the music I write for the concert hall for orchestra, it resembles the score the most, even if it's more minimal than that, I would say. But still, it's so yeah, it just felt like a creative place to be in, and like this wonderful. Like there wasn't a moment where I was regretting doing it.
Well, listen, I said I just wanted to grab you very quickly, and I'm so grateful for you jumping on.
Thank you so much, and you're in the middle of your weekend too. Yeah,
hugely busy schedule, and I look forward to whatever's next. I look forward to those live playbacks, and I look forward to seeing the band again soon as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Say hi to Ed. Okay.
I will. Thanks
care.
so much,
Bye-bye.
Bryce. Take care.